My name is Stella. I'm sitting in my apartment, which now feels like a hollow shell of what it used to be. The silence is deafening, and every empty space reminds me of him. But it wasn't always like this. It all started when I got a call from my friend Leo. It was a Wednesday evening, and I was making a simple pasta dinner, trying to keep myself together. The moment I heard Leo's voice, I knew something was wrong. "Hey," he said, his voice low. "Don't freak out." My stomach dropped. I could sense the truth before he even said it. Leo's friend Jake was at the Rusty Anchor, a dive bar that my ex-boyfriend Lucas used to frequent after work. I never liked the place, it was too loud and full of secrets. Jake saw Lucas there with a woman. Not just talking, but holding hands and kissing like they were the only ones in the world. My grip tightened around the spoon, and the sauce in the pan bubbled aggressively. "Who?" I managed to ask, my throat dry. Leo hesitated. At first, he didn't know her name, but the bartender did. Jake said they'd been coming in for weeks. Weeks. Lucas had been thinking about this for weeks, and I had no idea. Then Leo dropped the bombshell. Jake said it looked like they weren't new, like they'd practiced being a couple. I turned off the stove, my hand moving automatically as my mind started to fall apart. "Send me whatever you have," I whispered. Leo had already asked Jake to send the photo. A moment later, my phone buzzed with a text and an image. There they were. Lucas, laughing, his hand on a woman's lower back. She was tall, with dark hair and a sharp profile. She was leaning into him like I didn't exist. The worst part wasn't the kiss, it was the ease, the comfort between them. Then I noticed the timestamp in the corner of the photo. It was 2 weeks before the night Lucas sat me down at our kitchen table with a notepad and a laptop. 2 weeks before he said he needed clarity. I felt cold all over, like ice water had been poured into my bloodstream. I didn't think, I just hit call. Lucas answered on the third ring. "Stella," he said cautiously, like he'd already guessed why I was calling. "What's her name?" I asked. There was silence on the other end, and I could hear traffic. He was outside, avoiding me. "Lucas, what is her name?" I repeated, my voice low. He tried to deny it at first, but when I said, "I have a photo," something shifted. He went quiet, like a man waiting for judgment. Finally, he whispered, "Ava. Ava Thompson." The name hit me hard. I remembered meeting her at Lucas's company holiday party 2 years ago. She'd shaken my hand a little too firmly and smiled a little too confidently. I'd thought she was dangerous, but I hadn't realized how dangerous. I asked how long it had been going on. He blurted out that it wasn't what I thought, but I cut him off. "How long?" I demanded. He exhaled, admitting it had been 2 months. He claimed they hadn't slept together, that they'd just been talking and getting coffee, and she was helping him figure out his feelings about us. But I knew the truth. The list he'd made was just a cover story, a rational way to break up with me so he could pretend he wasn't already halfway gone. "You made your little list while you already had someone waiting in the wings," I said softly. He tried to deny it, but I snapped. "She's your backup plan," I said. His voice went quiet, and he defensively told me not to call her that. That's when I knew there was no going back. I told him not to contact me again, except about our dog, Max. Then I hung up. My hands were shaking so badly that I had to set the phone down on the counter. The kitchen smelled like burned sauce, and the pasta was ruined. Max whined softly from his bed in the corner, lifting his head as if he could sense my pain. I walked over and sat on the floor beside him, pressing my forehead to his fur. "I know, buddy," I whispered. The numbness I'd felt after our initial breakup was gone, replaced by a sharp, clear realization. Let me rewind a bit. Lucas and I had been together for 4 years. We'd shared so many memories, inside jokes, grocery lists, and couple Halloween costumes that our friends always raved about. We moved in together after 18 months and got Max after 2 years. Our families loved each other. My mom adored Lucas, and his family treated me like a part of theirs. One Thursday night, he sat me down at the kitchen table with his laptop open and a notepad in front of him. My first thought was that we were going to talk about the budget, maybe how we could afford a nicer couch. But then he said, "I've been thinking." He didn't look at me, he stared at the notepad. There was a line drawn down the middle of the notepad. On the left were pros, on the right, cons. I was in shock. "Are you making a list?" I asked. He said he needed clarity. In a relationship, that word is never a good sign. He said he felt like we were stuck, that he needed to figure out if we should keep going or if we were just comfortable. My stomach dropped, but I kept my composure. I've always been good at holding my expression steady while my insides are in turmoil. He asked me to leave the room so he could decide without feeling like I was watching him. It was like a punch in the gut. He was asking me to wait while he decided if I was worth keeping. I walked into the bedroom, my heart pounding. I could hear the scratch of his pen on paper from the kitchen, each stroke feeling like a verdict. I picked up my phone and opened the Notes app. I typed one word, leave. I printed the note, folded it, and left it on the coffee table. Then I left the apartment. The cold air outside was a shock, but it woke me up. I drove to Leo's place. He didn't ask any questions, he just handed me a beer. We sat on his balcony, overlooking a parking lot that smelled like asphalt and old rain. I told him about the list. He was shocked. We sat in silence for a while, and then I said I should go back. Leo asked if I was sure, but I knew I had to face it. When I got back to the apartment, Lucas was sitting on the couch, my note crumpled in his fist. His eyes were red and puffy. The notepad was still on the kitchen table. He asked what the hell the note was. I told him it was my list. I explained that his request to leave while he decided had told me everything I needed to know. He tried to say it wasn't what he was doing, but I knew better. I asked if he'd finished the list. He nodded. When I asked what it said, he hesitated. Finally, he said there were more pros than cons, that he was going to work on things. But when I asked how many cons, he whispered 8. And the pros? 11. I realized that he'd reduced our 4-year relationship to a scorecard. I told him I was sleeping in the bedroom and that he could take the couch or go to his sister's. 2 days later, on a Saturday morning, Lucas moved out. His older sister, Lily, was with him, holding a clipboard. They had a U-Haul double parked outside. We split everything down the middle. He took the couch we'd bought at IKEA, and I kept the TV. He took the kitchen table, and I kept the coffee maker, my small victory. Max was so confused. He didn't understand why his world was being split in two. Lucas said we'd switch Saturdays with Max, but I knew it wouldn't be the same. After he left, the apartment felt empty. I sat on the floor, Max's head in my lap. I was numb, not the dramatic kind of heartbreak people expect. I just felt like I'd been unplugged. But then came the news about Ava. After I found out about them, I couldn't just sit back. Lucas worked at a mid-sized marketing firm downtown called Horizon Marketing. It had about 30 employees, so everyone knew everyone, and secrets didn't stay buried. Ava was his direct supervisor. I remembered his boss, Mr. Thompson, saying that workplace relationships were messy and that he didn't tolerate power imbalances. I thought about it for a day, asking myself if I was doing this because it was right or because I wanted to hurt him back. The answer was both. On Friday morning, I opened my laptop and wrote an email to Mr. Thompson. I didn't use any emotional language or make accusations. I just stated the facts, that Lucas and I had ended our relationship and that I'd learned he'd been involved with Ava while we were still together. I sent the email, and my heart started pounding. I knew that once the facts were out, something had to happen. 2 days passed with no response. Then, on a Sunday afternoon, while I was at the hardware store buying light bulbs, Lucas called. He was furious. He said I'd gotten Ava in trouble and that HR was investigating both of them. I calmly replied that I'd just stated the facts. He accused me of going behind his back, but I reminded him that he'd been behind my back for 2 months. He said it could affect his career, but I told him he should have thought about that before using our relationship as a waiting room for his new fling. He accused me of being vindictive, but I said I was just being accurate. I found out later through Leo that Ava was transferred back to the New York office within a week, and Lucas received a formal written warning that went into his permanent file. 3 weeks later, I got a message from Lily. She asked if we could meet for coffee to talk about something important. I agreed. We met at a local coffee shop. Lily was nervous. She said Lucas didn't know she was there. She told me that Lucas had been having panic attacks since everything blew up. She also revealed that he'd sabotaged our relationship on purpose because he was terrified of commitment. The list was a test. He wanted to see if I'd fight for him, if I'd beg him to stay. I was shocked. I told her no, that I wasn't going to talk to him. He'd played games with me for months, cheated emotionally, and made me feel like I wasn't enough. 3 months have passed since then. I've kept the apartment. I've rearranged the furniture, getting rid of the things that reminded me of Lucas. Max has adjusted well. He sleeps on my feet when I work from home. My mom has been asking if I'm dating again, but the thought of it makes me anxious. I downloaded dating apps but deleted them within minutes. I'm still healing from the trust damage. Sometimes, late at night, when Max's breathing evens out and the apartment is quiet, I wonder what would have happened if I'd stayed and fought for him. But then Max shifts and presses his weight against my ankles, and I remember that I made the right decision. I walked away from someone who needed to measure love instead of practicing it.